Sweet. This is the second hallway hangout for the full sighting outreach program. We're just here to chat about some issues and some feedback that's come in. To start, I wanted to briefly go through the latest post summarizing the last call for testing. And so I'll share my screen. It's going to be a very brief overview since I've written it all up, but I just wanted to verbally kind of talk about it. So the last call for testing was about building a restaurant header, and it included creating basically two different columns blocks, having an order online form, using the navigation block, and just in general getting an experience for editing the header directly, which is pretty cool. It was neat to see some of the explorations, which you can see here. This is from some Yoast folks, but it was kind of fun. I wanted it to be something practical and the order now or order online and kind of relevant to our weird pandemic living. And an actual real challenge that I've seen restaurants actually have whenever I'm ordering is like they've all had to put some sort of janky like order online, call us, here's the menu, kind of shoved up into the header. So it was cool to see. This one's one of my favorites. It was cool to see what people did. So at a high level, generally speaking, people were able to make it work, but there were issues in particular with making it what you see is what you get. So you'd set something up in the editor, and then you'd view it on the front end and end up running into some issues. There was an interesting use case around this editor styles wrapping padding, and it's come up repeatedly. This issue was closed out, but it's still kind of a ongoing discussion. But essentially there's padding in the editor that's 8 pixels, and it's done just to make it, I can't remember the exact logic, but I think it's just to make it a better editing experience. But it's causing a difference in what you see is what you get. So people, that was one of the biggest jarring things, is they would set this up, it would look really good, and they view it on the site and things would be spread out more and kind of shoved up against the sides. And at this point, it's up to the themes to apply this to the theme JSON to zero them both out. But it recently came back up. And as you can see, this was from the last experiment. So I'm curious to see what happens with this, how we communicate this to theme authors, because it is a pretty key part that I think is breaking the WYSIWYG.
Yeah, it's a challenge though too, because you have there's a difference between the UI of editing, and you want to be able to give some space so people can kind of grab pieces and move the like sliders and have space for the work they need to do in the editor, which you may not need that space on the front end too. And so that's where it's hard to get it exactly right.
Yeah, I also kind of find it's funny that's like, well, how did we end up on 8 pixels rather than 10 or 5 or so? Yes, it's always a fun, a tricky problem to solve. But generally speaking, there's a repeated feedback that's come up across all the calls for testing, and this is improving the saving flow, wanting preview options, and then, as I mentioned, the differences in spacing. We'll go through that further. Because this test relied on the columns block a couple times, I got really good feedback about the columns block, including things around like the drop zone. If you're trying to drag things into an empty columns block, I found that to be really painful. A lot of stuff with width, kind of figuring out, because a lot of times you have to select the parent block in order to change the width, but it's not always intuitive how to do that. There was some stuff around navigating with arrow keys. But generally speaking, it was cool to see how the columns block was used in this and the pain points that came up. It was kind of like a mini test on this. And then similar to the columns block, a lot of the setting styles. So in order to actually set colors here and change different, font sizes, bold something, all that good stuff, this test explored styling quite a bit more. And as a result, there was a good bit of feedback around, mainly around how the settings are separated out. It's not always intuitive where things should go. And so you'd start, editing something and maybe it would be in the block toolbar, and then you'd have to go to the block sidebar and settings and try and edit things there. And then there's just general stuff, lots of bugs, lots of fun. What was the really cool? There was one that I found that was really wild. No, I think it was this. There was one where it was basically, or maybe this was the current test, that it all blends in my mind. But there's one where I basically was able to get into like no man's land with a bunch of gray space. If you opened up the list view and used the settings, the block settings, you could end up in this really cool in between land. But yeah, that's like a quick overview of the last call for testing. And At this point, we'll jump into kind of more individual issues. I have some that I have on my mind to go through, but I'm also open to.
Can I ask about on the call for testing?
Yeah. For the query block, or?
No, I was thinking navigation block. So there was,
Oh, yeah.
I saw some, but it looked like most people were able to use it since we've been involved with, or I've been involved with the navigation block some. It seemed like it wasn't as called out as a issue and working with it. Was that?
Yeah, it was mainly styling stuff. So like adding separates between menu items and then figuring out where to edit certain settings. That was mainly
okay, but less around the adding the elements into the block or adding the links or any of that.
Yeah, a lot of that was improved from previous tests, especially the placeholder stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that's where we worked a lot on in the last several releases.
I am curious with the navigation block because this test was very simple. So like, you know, you didn't have any sub menu items. That was one of the things when I was coming up with the test for this round, I originally wanted like sub menu items. So you'd have like dinner menu and lunch menu and online menu or something. But it was that was a pretty clunky experience that I was like, I don't even want to, like, I was like, I don't even want to make this a part of the test just yet.
Yeah, hopefully that will be improved. I think in 10.6, we'll both get a responsive menu for the navigation block and improving the sub menus. The hamburger menu kind of ticket.
I actually, can you all see this video? Maybe?
I don't see a video now. I see the Google Docs.
Let me see if I can change the sharing. I'm going to stop share, new share. We're just going to show you my whole desktop. Who cares? Okay. Can you see it now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So speaking of the navigation block, this is, I got an update from Yoan, who's one of the designers who's been working on this. He sent me this really cool video demonstrating the hamburger menu. So I'll play it. I had to download it locally. But you can see up in the corner. Pew, pew. I'm so excited. And the fact that it already just the keyboard switching through. Yeah, it's looking pretty snazzy.
Yeah, and hopefully this will make 10.6.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 10.7, but like I don't know what's going. Is 10.7 the last Gutenberg release for 5.8? So it definitely should make that one. Yeah, this is the ticket here.
Yeah, this was on my list, so this is great timing. Perfect. Yeah, because I wanted to test this. This is actually one of the things for this last test that I was like waiting for, but it's going to come up. So I posted an upcoming schedule, so I'll pull that up very briefly. And for the next round of testing, so we're currently on the 5th call for testing. It ends next week in 6 days. And then the 6th call for testing will start on May 12th. And it will be focused on template editing and the navigation block. So I'm hopeful we can get for 10.6. I guess even into, we could wait until 10.7 RC, but if it gets shipped,
10.6 should be released on that 12th. So yeah. Have it there. So we have one more week to get into to make the 10.6 cut
off. Good luck. Yeah, it's super exciting though. I'm keen to test it more. And this is a similar sort of, I think this shows it in the editor actually, or no, maybe it's, I can't remember what this one shows. Yeah. So it shows how open menu in the editor, which is interesting. That's an experience I didn't think about. It's like how to scale it down when you're actually editing it.
Yeah.
But pretty exciting stuff. And I think this is the original. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of tickets around it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So that's actually one of the things I wanted to briefly touch on is something pretty exciting. I'll note down coming soon for the next call for testing on May 12th. So making notes easier. Before I go too deep into my stuff, is there anything you all wanted to talk about as related to full sighting? Any issues or designs or development things? If not, all right, I'll keep the party going. Feel free to interrupt me anytime though.
I I was gonna say there still seems, and I don't know, we published the new documentation, the overview
Mhm.
document. It just went out like maybe last week, this week. There
Oh.
still seems to be some, I don't know if confusion's the right word, unsure on how to get started. There's a comment
Mm.
in the core chat the other day just about
I think you tagged me
people
in some of
diving
it.
in and jumping and trying to try it out.
Mhm.
Um, so I think hopefully the documentation's updated, and I linked to it there also. So I think that's one of the um, not concerned, just a matter of like getting more people reaching out to it and knowing how to get started and how to kind of um, to test it out. I think that's one of the
Yeah.
areas we can work on.
Yeah, I have like very brief how to test FSC instructions, and I've updated it from time to time, but I just have not gotten good feedback around. It's mainly for a lot of people, it's setting up local environments. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, which is tough, but I
and it's
agree.
also just having the time and find like I think we now have all the info out there,
Hmm.
and it's a matter of just also people finding the time to do it and knowing where to look.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this page though. Good, I'm so major props for getting that done. I was like, yes, just to have something other than the outreach program stuff to link to and something more official, I think is really rad. Um, I'll add that in the notes to shout out. Um, this was one I wanted to make sure to discuss because it's a pretty big change from a user experience perspective. And so to set the scene a little bit, um, one of the big pieces of feedback that's come through and that I think folks in design have been thinking about is how do you kind of indicate when you're editing something that affects more places in the site? And that's a bit more of an intense edit, I'll say. So if you're editing a post, you're just editing the post, it only affects things there. But if you're actually in the site editor or in a template editor experience, like you're editing more pieces that show up across different areas of your site. So one of the things that's come up is this idea of a click through to edit pattern. Um, and it's mainly coming up around template parts and reusable blocks, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so to show what it looks like, this is kind of a blurry GIF. I think this is the one I wanted to look at. But yeah, you basically have to click twice to edit into it. And if you see when you click, it actually looks quite a bit different than other blocks when you normally could just select and immediately jump in. One of the issues that's come up around this, this will be, it's not able to do it. I'm kind of just curious what this shows. So this is editing the footer. Oh, and he's able to go directly. But one of the things that's interesting about this is it's adding another layer, and I think we spoke about this in the first hallway hangout, but it's adding a barrier into like an extra click over and over and over again. But there does need to be some sort of visual experience to indicate, hey, you're about to edit, your entire site or a very important part of your site. So it's pretty neat. This is like obviously, I mean, this is 6 days ago. It's very actively under development. I hope I opened this. This is another thing I'm really excited about. Oh, here we go. This will be cool. So this is showing the experience. So you're hovering over it, click again, and you can kind of then go and edit it. So you're hovering over it again, click into it. But you can see that requires 3 clicks to get down to editing, where currently you're able to just have 1 click and edit. So how do you communicate, nothing's broken when you're doing this? And I don't quite know if the current experience, to be honest, indicates, other than just adding a barrier, it's not like you're seeing a notification, are you sure you want to edit? Or, hey, you're editing your template part. So I'm not sure how this is going to evolve, but it's a pretty big change.
Yeah, I don't mind the extra step because it does kind of force you to think about, okay,
What am I
like,
doing?
yeah, you are having to do something extra, and
Mm-hmm.
so there has to be some way to notify you. And if it's that extra click, um, kind of the problem with the notices is people end up getting blind to them also. Like if you just keep flashing these up to them, or
Yeah.
they'll just start ignoring it. So yeah, having it be a user action, and I think it's better than clicking something comes up. Yes, I want to edit this template
Confirm.
part, clicking that, and
Be
like,
so
right,
annoying.
it's not something explicit you have to click to edit. Um,
I wonder, I
and
mean, this is probably a horrible idea, but like having something where we're just gonna riff, but like where before you actually edit in, like see how it says like replace, like maybe there's an edit option,
yeah,
something to like visually select, because like otherwise I feel like I would select it and be like, why isn't this working? Like I don't know if I would like click again. I don't
yeah,
know how intuitive that experience.
yeah, and that's the hard part. So then that's even a bigger barrier, right? Because then you have to click to select it, then the toolbar, and then you have to find
Focus on
that
the.
spot, and yeah, you have to move to that spot in the toolbar.
Mm,
And we probably could do a quick key, like where you hit E to edit or something, whatever it might be. But it's another,
another step.
yeah,
Yeah. Tricky. This is tricky stuff. It's really cool to
oh
see
for
though.
sure.
I love, yeah. And this ties into a little bit of like locking down different areas. So for example, if you were like an agency and wanted to lock something down,
Yeah.
I'm sure much of what's being created here will inform that experience too. Wow, 23 hours ago. Look at this. I love seeing things live. 5 hours ago.
It's all very
Yes.
active. Yeah, the hard part
That's so
though,
cool.
I'm kind of, and this is just my own 2 cents, and I'm not suggesting this, and like I haven't responded to the ticket or anything, but I kind of like having explicit areas. So okay, like I'm building one template and I can put parts of that template into there. But then if I wanted to edit one of those parts, I'd click it and I'd go to that an editor with just that part open and then edit that part is kind of what I like. Because
Yeah.
then you know exactly what I'm editing. Like you'd only see that one part you're doing. You can show more context. You can say this is also used in other templates, or you can do a bunch of other pieces. Because trying to do it all on one screen is kind of cool,
Yeah, let
but
me
it also
show what he's
it could
talking
be a
about.
little bit scarier too, right? Like because you're like, okay, I'm editing the header on this one page. Is it just this page, or is it all headers? Is it like there's a lot of additional questions that could.
Ooh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Like the isolated, it's called isolated template part
Yeah,
mode. So like right now, this is my header. Love me some mountains. And this is what the current experience, I mean, obviously this is kind of a weird experience
yeah,
because there's just massive space, but this is what the current experience looks like. So I'm just now editing only that
just
header here.
yeah. And I like that because then you know,
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm only editing this header, and you can add additional, like, if you want to do on the
Oh,
sidebar, if you want to do other context in other spots, you could do that.
yeah.
And it's not part. And then when you're editing, say, the index template, you're assembling the parts. Say, okay, I wanted to see the header there, but I'm not editing the header there. When you're assembling the other, like the footer parts and other things.
Yeah.
But again, I totally see the reasons on both sides. So it's not like I'm. It's also nice to be able to do it on all one screen. Be like, no, I want to adjust this,
And to see it in
and then having to
context.
bounce. Yeah, you don't have to bounce back and forth and be like do all these
Mm-hmm.
adjustments. So that's why I like.
I also found a bug with the navigation block. Do you see this? The font changed.
Oh, the font's changing on it.
Yeah.
Oh, your font.
See, yeah. It's the system's font. Let's see what happens if I yes, found a bug.
No,
It
but
should
that
not
should happen. No.
for the placeholder stuff. You think the placeholder text for this should change? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like,
Oh,
watch.
I guess so. Yeah, yeah.
That's totally
So
a
that's
bug.
yeah. Okay, I see. I see. Yeah, because that's not stuff that gets put on the page. It's just the.
Yeah.
What happens if you do a different
Maybe I keep changing it.
block? Yeah, yeah, that's a bug.
Yeah. I'm trying. Oh, here. Let's try with query. We'll see if the placeholder.
Let's see if that text.
No. Yeah. It does change the plate. I just pointed at my computer where you can't see me.
I saw
really
the preview. The
yeah.
preview moves,
The preview
but
moves, which is kind of cool.
the UI around the block itself does not
Stays
change.
the same.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of like how this font looks. Wow, that's pretty wild. Cool. I'll report that after this is
That's
done.
an easy.
Yeah, it's super easy fix.
Nothing's easy fix, but that's an easy fix.
you got it. Is it just
There are no
CSS
easy
bleeding?
fixes.
Actually, I wonder if it's only happening in template parts. I wonder if it happens if I'm editing index.
Sabrina's now a committer, so she's a contributor. She can update it too. Right?
Best of luck.
You saw my tweets, right? I was following your posts.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, it happens in this too. Okay. I just wasn't sure if it was isolated. I've had some weird experiences with sometimes the isolated template part mode where like weird things will happen. Cool.
Yeah, I think it's probably just not specified in the navigation placeholders.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that to bug. Report it. Oh, this is what I wanted to talk about. Okay. Enhancing select mode. This is like a really very recent thing. When I was preparing for this hallway hangout, I saw Jay was working on this. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. So, and some of this ties into the click-through styling, but let me find, what is it? This is what I think I wanted. Yes. So this is before. I think this is it. So select mode is one of these modes up here. And it's different ways of interacting with the editor. So he's just showing kind of the difference. And then
And I think this is where the edit, what we were talking about earlier, I think there's a combination of those two ideas of being in select mode and being in edit mode for the templates also. So I think Jay's looking at both of those. So I assume he'll bring some cohesion to both.
And I think this, yeah, he like talks about how the click-through styling is part of what, fix the click behavior. So like it's a pretty cool. So okay, yeah, I guess let me back up and explain what the problem is trying to solve. Essentially, because there's a lot of blocks built into the site editing experience, it can be pretty tricky to navigate between them, and you might be trying to do different things. So you don't want to accidentally make edits, or maybe you're just trying to like poke around and drag around blocks. You know, you want to have a different way of interacting with it rather than actually building content. And so right now, using this little thing, you can switch between select mode and edit mode, which is pretty cool. And, you know, I think you just hit, I'll like go through what this looks like. You can see this experience is different. I can still drag things around though if I want to. And you just hit, it should hit escape and it should. I guess my keyboard is not working. I'll figure that out later. But they're just different modes. So most people, you're spending time in edit mode, but there is an argument to be made to improve select mode to make it more useful, so that in the site editing experience where you're exposed to way more stuff, different types of interactions, how can we make select mode, improve select mode so it's actually more useful and more intuitive to use with the site editor. And this is kind of the list of improvements. So there's a couple like what I'll call like medium-sized projects. I think that's actually the tag under the issues, but included in this is like enhancing select mode. There's a whole thing about improving list view, which is this view right here. So there's different tools that we basically want to have included with the site editor to make it easier to navigate between and build what you want. And this is one of those that I'm really excited to see iterate upon. So this is after his designs. And I can't remember. Yeah, it's just slight, subtle, basically aligning the different interactions. It's very subtle, but I think I spend too much time staring at this stuff. But it should make it easier to navigate between stuff, because sometimes when you're going through the editor, like it's kind of like, it's hard to know where the focus is going. There's a lot of just jumping around. Yeah, I don't know if you can see how annoying this is. It's feedback we've gotten a good bit with the outreach program too, is it's just really hard to know when you're selecting things because so much is like bopping along.
I have that problem with the group block often, like trying to drag things into a group block or trying to get things, especially when there's a couple there, because it's there's not a clear target area to for the end of it. I usually end up using the list view mode. I almost never use the select mode. I'll go to that list view mode and I'll select the pieces that way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've stopped using breadcrumbs as well down here.
Yeah, I switched to the list views much because it's quicker, because usually I want to jump to something not at the same level. Like I missed my target. I want to jump to the other one at the same level, and the breadcrumb won't get me there. I need to use the list view, right? If you want to get to a different,
Yeah.
like that second group or something else.
And you just don't always know what you're selecting. Where here you can actually see like, okay, what is it that
Yeah.
I'm going between, which is kind of
Yeah,
cool.
so I almost always have the list view persistent too while I'm doing editing and stuff too. So I like the new highlight that I have. That kind of shows where
Yes. Yeah, that was actually one of the things I also wanted to talk about is like before it didn't highlight things like this. So you didn't actually know like what are the nested blocks that you're selecting in this parent block, where now
you are.
it does it really nice. Yeah. Let's see if I can replicate the bug that I found.
The one I'm looking forward to, and there's a ticket open already, is being able to drag and drop from the list view. I think that'd be a really nice. So if you can
let me pull
click
up
something there and drag it within the list view itself. I know that there's a ticket already for that.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's a lot of really cool. Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
So many cool updates potentially for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aw, Yellen. Get excited when I see his name. Yeah, but this is kind of related to all of this stuff is related to just general feedback we've gotten around, you know, navigating between different editing levels, as well as just like the sheer number of blocks and configuration and going between nested blocks versus parent blocks and grabbing the right things and building quickly versus like accidentally editing something, which is pretty cool. So I'm really excited. I think this is a cool issue to follow. I'm very excited to see how it develops. This was a big one I wanted to talk about. What's I'm trying to think of, but this might show the list improvements that oh, actually I'll keep that open just to be safe. Yeah, I guess it's the same thing. I was hoping there'd be a before and after, but oh yeah, no, there is. This I think might show, oh no, it doesn't. This just shows the after. Gotta get the before, you know? Yeah, it's pretty cool. I still think it's funny. I was watching someone respond to one of the full sighting outreach program calls, and they didn't use list view at all. I've actually seen that a good bit of people. Like I have to put multiple nudges in the calls for testing to get people to use list view, which is interesting. Like how discoverable is it? I'm not so sure right now. It is very discoverable.
Yeah, the top bar. I don't know if I use that. I rarely use it. I use it now. Like I gotten used to the list view being so useful that I'll use it. But like almost never use the plus there unless I'm adding a pattern.
Same. Undo I use. I love the test when things don't undo.
Is there a shortcut for undo? Can I do Control Z? Because maybe I just do the shortcut. Yeah. So I probably just do that, and I don't use that undo up there. So yeah, the top bar I rarely look to and use, so I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just one case, but like it's probably likely that a lot of people do something similar. They just don't know about the list view. Like,
yeah,
and it's relatively new too. I don't think it's even in. You'd have to look at what's in 5.7. I don't know if it's even in the current. At least at this state it is. I know the persistence of it is really new.
Yeah, I'm gonna add it in.
So I think people just aren't familiar with it, and it's not nearly as useful. So
yeah,
ways to encourage people to do that.
Related to this, that I think is interesting that you bring this up, is this idea of migrating document attributes from the inspector to the top bar. So what this means in layman's terms is like, oh, I need to go to a post. I think that's what, yeah. Let me go out of this. I'll go through the template editing flow just as a test. Don't care about typos because I'll fix it here. What up? Oh, this is cool. I think this might be new. But one of the things that's being talked about right now, so that's the template editing mode, is actually adding this little top bar showing details about the post in the same way that, so right now you don't see it because it doesn't exist. But if you have the site editor open and you're editing a template, you have this neat little drop down, and this currently doesn't exist here. And so kind of, Marcus, to your point of like, I don't really use the top toolbar. I think it's be really interesting because like a lot of the stuff currently would be shoved over here.
Yeah.
But this is proposing, and this is just someone's proposal kind of talking about experiments, is actually putting this stuff in the same way we have it for the site editor, putting the same stuff into the post editor. So let me see. Yeah, I think this is a video that'll show it. I'm gonna pause right when it opens. Okay. So page details. So imagine we'll pretend it's a post, but imagine you're editing a page here and you have this little drop down here rather than going to the side. And the theory behind this is, since this is the direction the site editor is going in, how can we prepare the post editor for similar sorts of interactions? Kind of like, it seems like right now people don't explore it as much. So how do we make it intuitive and get people used to that habit of looking at something up at the top toolbar? And you can see the status, visibility, featured image, excerpt, all that sort of stuff that normally is over here would be shoved into this thing. Let's play the rest of this. And this is just a design exploration right now. I do like this template thing, I'm not gonna lie. I think right now, the current template experience, I mean, this is obviously gonna be improved, but it's pretty brutal, pretty simple. So it's kind of neat to see this.
Well, it's interesting too, because we have, they do like pages have templates already. So there's like the page attribute drop down template thing. So there's a spot to already, the concept's already in the current WordPress.
Yeah. But it's pretty cool to see. Like, I really like this.
Yeah. No, I like that drop down where you select the templates and it shows like,
and it pops
that
like
that view right there. That's really cool.
Yeah, same. And I do think in terms of actually, this shows it broken out, in terms of actually preparing folks for full siting and thinking about templates, and that just general interaction, making it really predictable rather than having more things in the sidebar. Like if you could only have the sidebar be something that's like purely about styling and settings for different blocks, and then having actually the post or template you're editing like up there, I think would be a good distinction. I cannot tell you how often, I mean, I don't know if y'all saw earlier, but like I often will click on, I mean, global styles is work in progress, but since it opens, even if I'm editing a block, if I click on global styles, it opens at root, and then I'll just start messing around. I'm like, oh, right, I have to go to like by block type, or I have to like go into this specific thing, which I think is like it's gonna be interesting to see how they solve that. But
yeah, I think it would be nice to move the post type stuff out of that sidebar, so you don't have the two. Like you have two tabs now. One for the for now, if you're in the post editor, it'd be post and block, and the template editor, it's template settings and block. So it'd be kind of nice to move that to
its own
a
place,
different location, and then the gear is just always block settings.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool, and it's in line. Not to really just plug all the posts. But I just recently posted about the block toolbar getting refined to make it more intuitive and actually sectioned out. So I think there's all these little iterations happening to try and just make things really predictable. Yoan offered these lovely images to me. I had my own, and then he brought in this beautiful image, so much better. But this is what it looked like before with the block toolbar, and this is after. And the whole point of it is that there's actually like structure to it, so it's very predictable. And so when you're looking at any blocks toolbar, what's more meta tools, what's like actual like editing on the tool itself versus what's like inline editing. I just found a typo. I will edit that. But yeah, it's pretty exciting to see these like refinements finally happening, to move into a space of refinement and thinking holistically about where things should live rather than just, hacking together a technical solution that works, but now moving into like that delightful space. But I definitely recommend checking out this post. It's pretty cool. And I'll include a link to it in the notes. Before we go too far though, I actually might save some of this stuff. I didn't realize how much I put in here. I always have too many things that I want to talk about. I will pause for a moment and see if I don't know if Sabrina, if you have any questions. Marcus and I talk all the time, so I feel like
Not yet, but now I
okay,
know
cool.
what to do.
Awesome. Well, I'll just do one little plug in case anyone's watching this. Between now and May 12th, 2021, hello to anyone in the future beyond 2021. We're doing a second round of questions. So the whole point of these rounds of questions are basically just to flesh out things that people are worried about, curious about, interested in learning more. And I work with people to basically find the answers to the questions. I don't have all the answers, but I go out and find them. We did one previously, another round, and it went really well. I actually ended up having to write like 5 different posts to summarize it because we ended up getting like 47, 46 questions. It was pretty awesome and really cool. And I'm actually really hopeful we can do the same thing because it helps lay the groundwork for documentation. It also helps me know from the outreach program perspective, like what sort of things we can talk about and help educate people on and share. But yeah, there's all sorts of questions previously. It'll likely take the same format that this previous round of answers went. So I won't go through all those, but just one last minute plug to submit your questions. And I look forward to seeing what people are curious about, especially now that 5.8 has like a scope set and next steps and all that good stuff. So I will stop.
I haven't seen that post yet too, so it looks like it went out yesterday. So
yeah, I was in my like brief roundup, but I will be plugging it all over. I should probably flag it for the marketing team too. I'll stop sharing, but I will also stop recording so we can wrap up.